My name is Chris Graff, and I am the Dad's Club president for this year, and proud father to Charlie Graff, class of 25, and Austin Graff, class of 26. A few thank yous this morning before we get started. Thanks, Father Bylon, for Mass this morning. Beautiful way to get our week started. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez Ching, for the orchestra. That was beautiful. And thank you, Colin Matheny, sitting here, for the Pit Room Barbecue. And Miss Jewett, thank you all very much. This is a great way to start the week. Let me talk a little bit about what Dad's Club has been doing this year before we introduce our speaker. We started off in August with freshman matriculation and had a number of dads out here on the plaza over here cooking for the freshman class. About 400 kids came through. It was a big hit. We started September with Tunnel Crew and sponsored Senior Night for the football team for a tailgate. In mid-September, we did a happy hour at Kirby Ice House. We had about 125 dads come, mostly freshman dads, which was nice to get to meet some of them. In January, we hosted the Jazz Ensemble. They were doing their program, and Dad's Club sent them off with a meal for their big concert. January, we did the baseball team cook-off. We had about 180 kids and parents, and we had dads cooking over on the baseball field. We started in January something called the Dad's Club Breakfast Series, which has been very well received. We started with Mark McNeil, the director of formation, talking to us about his department and what he does. We did another one in March with Jeremy Dunford, who's the golf coach, but also teaches the science, technology, and faith in the modern world class, which what we understand is a very popular elective. But he was fascinating, talking about how to take what our boys learn in their daily life at Jesuit and take it into the real world. And he had a great talk, and I think we'll probably try and do another one before the school year's out. But that's been very well received. Those Breakfast Club, look on the Friday e-blast down at the bottom where the Dad's Club announcements are for those announcements. Some other things we did, we, of course, we're here for Spring Fling. Our booth was not as popular as the whole hog that was next to us, but we sold out our 250 burgers pretty quick. We hosted the Woodlands here for rugby and cooked for both the Woodlands team and our team at the end of their match. That was very well received. We tried to do lacrosse this year, but that got rained out, and we're trying to get lacrosse back on the calendar. And, of course, the hockey team has asked us to do something also. So just to give you an update of what Dad's Club's doing, we'll start off next year similarly, and we're here to support the activities of our boys and whatever we've got, whatever we're able to do for them. We're going to do the Crusader of the Year award. Mr. Lojo is going to come up here and talk and give the award for freshman, sophomore, and junior. And then before that, we'll have our speaker, Dan Pepp. So let me introduce Dan. Dan's our Director of Communications at Strake Jesuit, husband of 13 years and father to 3 daughters and 2 sons. He's an alumnus of Franciscan University of Steubenville and came to Strake in 2015 after 5 years of teaching at the Catholic school in upstate New York. Before transitioning to communications office, he taught freshman English, junior theology, multiple fine arts classes in photography and digital graphics. He chaired the fine arts department, coached pole vault, and directed S-Jet, which he continues to do. Dan's involvement in multiple facets of the school. He gives a nuanced perspective into the brand psychology of Strake Jesuit. Today, he is going to talk to us about Catholic fatherhood, the mission, branding, and culture. So thank you, Dan, for being with us. Appreciate you.
Good morning. What is it that makes someone a father? Well, certainly having a child makes you a father, but being a dad? Bending the garden hose that your kid is using so the water stops flowing and then suggesting that they look inside as you set off Old Faithful in their face makes you a dad. As introduced, I'm Dan Pepp. I'm the Director of Communications here. And I think that image is a funny take on an important relationship between persons. Deep inside, what it means is something more. It suggests that to be a dad is an ongoing journey of joy, love, commitment, and presence. You may be here this morning with your dad. or maybe somebody who lives out that role in your life, today we pause to celebrate and honor this relationship. It's possible you may be wondering what a high school communications director does and why he might be asked to speak at the Father-Son Luncheon. Hopefully by the end, the why will make sense, but I'll start out with what I do here. In the most concise terms, my work concerns the branding of the school. So what does that mean? The work of branding takes many forms. To name a few, our office manages the website and social media. We produce the school's alumni magazine, The Chronicle. We communicate with news outlets in the Houston area and beyond. Internally to our campus, we offer insight about how everyone's communications can stay effective and aesthetically consistent. We, through multiple outlets and forms of media, tell and help others tell the story of Strake Jesuit. But branding isn't all posting selfies on social media and making magazines. Branding is about maintaining a reputation. And you can't brand for branding's sake. A brand has to be predicated on something. In the end, branding efforts must be proving the consistent execution of a mission. BMW says their brand is predicated on the mission of making the ultimate driving machine. By being clear about what their goals are, they form a culture by attracting buyers who get them. And people who get them have a deep appreciation for their product, and they stay very loyal. And even people who don't ever buy a BMW generally still respect their product because their goals are clear and they're inspiring, and they seem to be reasonably honest. And by the way, if anybody in the room works for Chrysler, I apologize for what I'm about to say. If Chrysler's slogan were the ultimate driving machine, after sitting in one of their minivans for 5 minutes, you'd be thinking, it's a stretch. And either you'd conclude that their marketing team was just lying to you, or at best, they were deeply confused. Their official slogan was recently imported from Detroit, which is kind of cheeky, but doesn't rev your engine in the same way that owning the ultimate driving machine does. In addition to being clear and inspiring, consistency also says something about brand value. Since 1998, Chrysler has used the slogans, "Engineered to be great cars," "Drive equals love," "Inspiration comes standard," "Engineered beautifully," "Imported from Detroit," and most currently, "America's import." That's a new mission every 2 to 3 years for the last 25 years. In contrast, BMW debuted the ultimate driving machine 50 years ago in 1974, and they traded it in for joy in 2010, and about a year later abandoned it in favor of going back to the original slogan, where it continues to sit today. If you ask your father or your grandfather, what's BMW's slogan, he'll probably know it. If you ask him about Chrysler's, how would he even know which one you were referring to? Do people more readily put their trust in something that changes every 2 years or something that is clear, inspiring, and unchanging? I think there's a lot of proof to support the latter, and it's probably also been your experience that people are happier to put their trust in a good brand. But even the brand can't survive on fancy claims. The brand must also be truthful. It must be authentic. It must deliver on its mission. Chrysler may be lacking in the slogan department, but BMW doesn't create the ultimate driving machine just because they say they do. That decision is up to the buyer. They're only successful because enough people think that they actually do deliver the ultimate driving machine. And at some point, the smoke and mirrors of marketing must lead to an actual experience. So on that note, I'd like to steer this analogy a little closer to home and give you a peek under the hood at Strake Jesuit's brand efforts. I didn't have to invent our mission. We already had one. And for the record, we've been forming Men for Others nearly 15 years longer than BMW has been claiming to make the ultimate driving machine. And where the rubber hits the road at Strake Jesuit, it's in the classroom. I'm extremely grateful as somebody who works in communications that my colleagues have been hired because they're deeply focused on our mission. I can post posts and publish magazines all year, but anyone in sales will tell you that the most powerful marketing is word of mouth. And that word of mouth that's going to originate from the student experience that happens in every day in all of our teachers' classrooms. I'm grateful that our student experience is authentic. It makes my work so much simpler. So if I didn't create the mission and the measure of its execution is in the classroom, one might go out on a limb and ask, why do we need a communications department? Some people might not be able to answer that, but my answer is we are outwardly proving our consistent execution of our mission. Unlike BMW, we're not in the work of continuing for continuation's sake in a bottomless endeavor to appease the shareholders, right? Our work must be continued because living as a man for others is a journey toward holiness. It makes an impact in the lives of our students, and that impact can affect the lives of your families and their future families. A strong manifestation of mission inherently attracts others who ascribe to the value of that mission. If a brand is to grow in strength, its mission cannot be executed on in silence. It must be executed on in community. That's what Father Byron was talking about in his homily. Individuals who labor together in the same mission begin to form a culture. So at Strake Jesuit, one major goal of mine is for everyone external to our campus to understand our mission clearly so that we can catch the attention of families who might want to be a part of it. If we lack clarity about what our mission is, families might send their son here only to find out that they're not looking for a Catholic and Jesuit formation. And everyone in that situation, especially the student, would struggle with wanting us to be something other than what we are. It's important our brand be strong in a way that continues to attract those who will benefit from our mission the most. And those with the clearest understanding of what our mission is will benefit the most by coming here. Played out over time, this effort of branding can effectively feed the culture that helps us execute our mission effectively. Another major goal of mine is for our students to be clear day in and day out about what we expect for them. We expect them to become men for others, for the greater glory of God, by being increasingly loving, religious, committed to doing justice, intellectually competent, and open to growth. To the students in the room, if you didn't know those are our key goals for you, the success of our mission would be very, very difficult. I also hope that you students realize that I'm not the only person who proclaims what it means to be Strake Jesuit. You get to proclaim that every single day through the choices that you make. Similar to the way that your actions say something about your parents who your parents have raised you to be. It may be the case that the most important reason that I would want our mission to thrive is so that you can continue to be surrounded by peers who want to grow in the same ways that you do, so that you can ultimately help each other walk on the path to answering God's call for your life. I'm going to shift gears one last time because this talk isn't meant to be about the brand strength of auto companies, and it's not really even meant to be about Strake Jesuit. Today is about you and I and our identity as fathers and future fathers. When I was writing this thoughts down for this morning, I thought about my own dad and the culture that he fostered in our family. And I'm sure there's a countless number of lessons that he taught me through his example as a parent, but one obscure memory came back to me the strongest. My dad was also a high school teacher, and I remember him needing to go back to school one night after hours, and I, maybe 8 years old, tagged along with him. We drove around the back of the school and walked in a service door where the maintenance supplies were kept, and a janitor was there about to begin his nighttime cleaning routine. My dad, who worked at the school for many, many years, spent a few minutes catching up with the also longtime janitor, Joe Caldera, while I waited what seemed like a long time. Eventually, we went on our way to his classroom, and about halfway there, I remember him saying to me, "Always be kind to the janitors. They have more keys than you." And I think he was half joking about their utility, but what he was also telling me was, don't be caught thinking that you're better than anybody else, or you never know who you might be able to help and whose help you might find yourself needing. If you asked him, my dad would not be able to pull this memory out in a million years. It was a throwaway to him. He probably thought he was being funny. But that stuck with me, and this little fleeting moment, this fleeting comment, formed who I am in some way. As a father myself, who frequently feels the weight of the office and simultaneously feels like I can't possibly be doing a good enough job at it, it's a little scary how deeply impactful we dads are to the culture of our families. I read about a moderately recent study by a Swiss group that measured influences on church attendance regardless of religion. It proposed that for families with both the mother and father, if both mom and dad go to church together, 33% of their children will grow up to be regular church goers. If mom brings the kids to church but dad doesn't go, only 2% of children in that situation grow up to be regular churchgoers. If dad brings the kids to church but mom doesn't go, 44% of those children grow up to be regular churchgoers. At the risk of concluding that you dads should leave your wives home next time you bring your sons to Mass, I will dwell on the staggering impact that a father's example has. Fatherhood is an important business to be in. And if you're here and you're 14 or 15 or 16 or 17 and fatherhood seems a long way off, and I hope for your sake that it is, what I'm suggesting is that the way that you develop your brand today, and by brand I mean those outward signs of your personal mission, what you do today and tomorrow and the day after that will impact what kind of model you will be when you eventually do become a father. And if you're called to the priesthood, it will impact your spiritual fatherhood in the same way. I'm getting pretty close to put this talk in park, but I'd like to ask you to reflect on a few challenging questions about your brand next time you get some quiet time. Maybe you're driving home in the car or waiting for your son's extracurricular to end. To the fathers in the room, is the mission of your family clear? Is the mission of your family inspiring? Is the mission of your family consistent? How well have you branded your family, which is to say, are there signs by which other people understand your family's mission? Has your family's mission attracted or repelled others because of its strength and goodness? How is the current culture of your family enabling that mission to continue? To the future fathers in the room, I know you can't think about your own family yet, but your family ends up being the people that you are closest to the most. So I would, in your shoes right now, I would ask you, how would you describe the mission of your 5 closest friends? Is that group oriented toward the good? Does it have a culture that is inspiring and consistent? What opportunities have those friends offered one another to grow in holiness? And what are the things that you are doing day to day to build yourself into the father that you want to be one day? It may be the case that the answers to these questions don't come very quickly to you for 2 reasons. One, it's not really normal to think about fatherhood this way, unless you nerd out about branding the way I do. And 2, these are important questions to ask. They're ones that clearly demand some deep thought. One does not simply embark on a mission on a whim. It must be discerned and, for people like us, prayed over. It's probably also worth pointing out that we all inherit a mission to some degree. Just as I have been handed Strake Jesuit's mission, every son is born into the mission that his father is already on. Some of those missions look a little more like Chrysler. They're not really clear. They change every 2 years. And others are more like BMW. They're clear, they're inspiring, they're unchanging. If this thought makes you uncomfortable, makes me a little uncomfortable, some good news is that it's not uncommon for brands to go through major transformations for the better. Subway used to be called Pete's Super Submarines. Coca-Cola stopped using actual cocaine in their recipe. So I'd like to challenge you today on this, that if you've never sat down with your family, your wife, your kids, and talked about your family's mission, today would be a great day to do that. As Coach Kimball has reminded me once or twice, if you wait until tomorrow, tomorrow ain't coming. So lastly, if I could offer some direction as to what missions fathers and future fathers should be on, of course I would take our Heavenly Father as the standard. Just as the father with the garden hose uses play to bond with his child, our Heavenly Father uses every aspect of our lives, the joys, the challenges, playful moments, to draw us closer to Him. The role of a Christian dad is to model this divine example, teaching not only through words, but through lived examples of love, patience, forgiveness, and mercy. Human fathers, then, are called to be both a father in their responsibility and in their guidance, and a dad in their loving and nurturing relationship with their children. Whatever the nuances of the individual missions of each of our families will be, I think if they are good missions, they will uniformly increase our imitation of Christ, the ultimate man for others. The 28th Superior of the Society of Jesus said, Superior General, of the Society of Jesus once said, "Only by being a man for others does one become fully human." These are pretty bold words, and Father Pedro Arrupe, by speaking them, calls us out of ourselves to live as servants of one another, and in doing so, we embody Christ's prompt to love one another as I have loved you. So I just want to, in closing, just thank you all for being here today. Sincerely, thank you for being here and for loving one another. We can tell, because of the time that we spend with your sons every day, that you are doing a very good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your words. Look forward to seeing my wife's face next weekend when I tell her I'm taking my kids to Mass by myself. But appreciate it. As evidenced by the record number of applications the school gets, you're doing something right, so thank you very much. My turn to introduce Principal Ken Lojo for Crusader of the Year.
Thank you, Mr. Graff, and thank you to everybody for being here on this very special day. Every year, the Dads Club makes an award to the individual student in each class whom the faculty selects as the most outstanding young man from that class. Today, I have the honor of recognizing several young men of whom we are very proud. They represent, in the eyes of the faculty, that student who has best responded to and most benefited from his time as a member of the Strake Jesuit community in the areas of academic achievement, extracurricular involvement, and in the spiritual life of the school, including an active faith in God and service of others. As each winner is announced, I'd ask that he come up and receive his award from Father Johnson. Our freshman Crusader of the Year is an academically gifted and athletically talented young man, admired by both peers and teachers alike. A student of many interests, he tackles his passions with enthusiasm. He's an active member of the Car Club, Medical Club, and Philosophy Club. His natural charisma and confident demeanor is part of what makes him a natural leader. But above all else, he is widely respected in our community as a remarkably consistent example of what it means to be a good man. From the freshman class, the recipient of the 2023-24 Crusader of the Year Award is Alex Montoya. Our sophomore Crusader of the Year exhibits all of the qualities that define this prestigious award. He excels academically and in extracurriculars, yet stands out for his kindness, humility, and openness to growth. His leadership and work ethic not only elevate his own performance, but also inspire his classmates to excel. A loyal teammate, dedicated friend, selfless leader, he truly represents what it means to be a man for others. From the sophomore class, the recipient of the 2023-24 Crusader of the Year Award is Jack Pratty. Our Junior Crusader of the Year has truly embraced every aspect of our school community. As a dedicated and successful student, he has consistently tackled a challenging course load over the past 3 years. His talents extend to the arts, with impressive musical performance at several school events, and to the sports arena, where he has excelled in cross country and wrestling, even leading as the wrestling team captain. His exemplary character, unwavering positivity, and strong moral compass make him a positive influence in our community, exemplifying the ideals of this award. From the junior class, the recipient of the 2023-24 Crusader of the Year Award is Martín Mejia. Congratulations to you all. We are very proud of you. I now invite Mr. Graff back to the podium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Principal Lojo. Congratulations to all the Crusader of the Year award winners. This concludes our program for today. The picture booth is open right now. I've been instructed to tell you guys you may leave your plates on the table. They'll be cleaned up after. And thank you for being here this morning. Have a good rest of your day and good rest of your week.